to another edition of the Pitching In podcast. I am Jason Mackey alongside Michael Mckenry. I am in Florida for a few more days, not to rub it in to you, Fort. You were here for a little bit, talked to some people, did some things, I'm sure had some dinner, and you went back, and you're back in chilly Pittsburgh. How's the weather there? What's going on back home?
Yeah, you didn't want to rub it in at all, did you, Mackie?
No, I mean,
you're chilly Pittsburgh back. Yeah, whatever. It's okay. I miss you already. I want to come back.
Eat dinner, staring out at the sun and water, and had seafood. None of that happened, I swear.
Yeah.
What was the best meal you had when you were down here, other than the Oak and Stone pizza that we shared?
Honestly, like I love Pier 22 right there. It's so good. The sushi's good. The fish is good. So that place is good. And I went to a little seafood place that's kind of out on a dock. I can't think of the name of it, but it was outstanding as well.
Tide Tables?
We'll just say yes. We'll say yes.
Where was it?
So if you leave the hotel, you go over the bridge and it's just to the left.
Oh, okay.
And it's got 3 levels. Each level has like kind of either a different restaurant or at least a different pricing. I mean, the top level's the nicest. Say that again.
River House?
River House, yes.
River House, okay.
Yeah, I had a great meal there, great people. So it was really neat. I got to see some really, really cool people I was down there I haven't seen in years. So that was a host family that I didn't live with, but I got close with. And, you know, I hadn't seen them since 2017. And I got to see them. And it was really, really neat. So it's really cool what all you can do while you're down in Florida in that really small kind of family atmosphere and who you may see because they're maybe down to see somebody in the Tampa Bay Rays or whatever. So really, really good time down there.
You know what I've been amazed by being down here in spring training? And I love this area. Anybody who reads our coverage knows how much I love this area. I wrote a thing for a spring training preview that said, if you go down to Bradenton as a fan, you should hit these spots. I got more reaction to that article than anything that I've written about the baseball team. I've gotten emails, tweets, people come up to me at Lecom Park or Pirate City saying I read your article and we went here, 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 and here. I feel like the ugly grouper and Tide Tables and Pier 22, they should have me on the payroll or something. Not seriously, but I am very
seriously. No.
It is an awesome area though. And I was happy. I tweeted a picture of this. You probably saw it, where we had an Italian place down here and went out of business. And I found a new Italian place called Scuderia or Scuderia. I don't know how you say it, right on Cortez near where I'm staying. So this place rocks, man. It really is. Pier 22, if you've never been, is absolutely fantastic. That's where I went to dinner tonight. I'm going to miss it. It's a weird time of year. You've probably done this as a player. I've done it a few times as a media member. It's I don't want to leave, but I don't want to be here. It's these competing right?
Sounds like a contradiction a little bit.
Baseball. I just want to, I want to pick up Florida and take it with me.
I completely agree. And two, there was only a certain amount of times where I knew I was a shoe-in to make the team or they told me really early. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, the sphincter just gets really stiff around this time for a lot of guys. You're showing up at the ballpark and you're kind of okay, there's a pitching coach. Is he walking my way? Oh, there's the catching coach. Oh, that's the bullpen coach. And you're just watching things unfold. And they grab a guy and you see him go away. And he comes back, head goes down. You're like, oh no, what's happening? Because you can't control any of that. But the reality of it is you always want to make the big league squad. And they're going to call you in at some point, whether you're going to make the team or not make the team. And that's the moment you're in right now. So I'm sure as a writer, you're in there and you're kind of all right, what's going on? Who's hurt? What's happening? There's just a lot of things moving all at once the last 7 to 10 days.
Yeah, there is. And for me, I did it proactively this year a little bit. I've been through this enough to know just in general, on this side of the fence, you realize that certain parts of the year just suck. And one of them is the run up to a season. It's just gonna suck. You've got a lot of stuff to write. I'm here by myself. I'm not complaining. It's just you have a game story, any sort of news, features. You have to handle everything and then find time, usually in the evening or before stuff gets going, to tackle any sort of advance work. So right now, I think I'm 5 preview stories in with maybe 1 or 2 still to go to get our ramp up to opening day coverage. So yeah, it's a difficult time for sure.
I would say so. Me not being a writer and just seeing and learning what you do, remarkable. I mean, it really is, like, just how you can articulate things and bring it to life has been really impressive to me. So kudos to you and all that you do. You absolutely work your tail off, and I appreciate that. I think people that do that should get more love, and you definitely should. I'm not trying to boast you up too much, but the reality of it is like, I'm really impressed by what you do. I mean, I really am. Like, I've been around, I played for, I think, 10 or 11 teams over my career. And the reality of it is not everybody takes it as serious as you. Not everybody gets after it like you do. And that's special. And, you're respected not only by the staff, but by the players for a reason, because you do the things the way it should be done. You're fair, you're honest, and you come in, with an understanding of what you want to do. You articulate it well, and you get really good answers. So keep it up.
Thanks, dude.
No problem.
I will say this. I don't have a bunch of talent. I'm not the smartest person or any of that stuff, but like, I do work my tail off, and I do care, and I will take credit for those two things every day of the week. I was raised the right way by good parents that, instilled work ethic in me and challenged me, and I'm forever grateful. And I have people in my life that hold me accountable to effort and that sort of thing. Not that I fall short, but anyway, that ends up leading to good things. So we're not here to talk about me. We're here to talk.
That was life lesson right there.
Yeah,
that's a good life lesson, right? I love that.
All right. I don't know, man. I can't get past the sphincter thing. I think we got to cut that. We can't. We just can't. We can't put out a podcast where you're talking about somebody.
Just keep rolling. Well, I cut it out. That's great. Oh, that's awesome. Can't get past the sphincter. Hello.
I mean, it's tremendous. I just don't think we can do that.
Oh, it's so true, though. I mean, that's the reality. True. It's like, man, it's such a tough week. I mean, even when you go through arbitration, they don't tell you those things. Like, hey, by the way, your contract's not guaranteed until they tell you make the team. Like, what? I did all this? Yeah. And you're telling me I'm not guaranteed? Like, no, if you get released, you maybe get 40% of a month's contract. I'm like, what? It's nuts. So yeah, we'll just keep rolling. I'll cut it out. I'll have some fun with it.
All right. If you say so. So. Somehow I feel like this whole podcast is going to end up looking just like it does in its entirety, and you're going to be giggling in your editing studio, pulling one over on me. But all right.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
We're going to get to the Pirates baseball stuff. My plan was to take an early detour for timeliness sake, because I think there's something with the World Baseball Classic that's worth kicking around here. And I think it's been talked about enough on social media. And I think anybody who cares whatsoever about baseball was watching that game last night and was enraptured by Shohei Ohtani against Mike Trout, and just Shohei Ohtani in general. I mean, it was absolutely phenomenal. I don't remember being that genuinely like goosebumps on the arms, that feeling toward baseball. And I mean, you get playoffs, you get the World Series, you get all this stuff, but like, what a moment, man. What a moment. And to cap a tournament that I don't think it was perfect. We can sit here and debate the merits of it. I think both of us agree that it should exist. Anybody that says it doesn't exist, well, you're wrong and you're dumb. But I think there are ways to make it better. And I'd like to kick that around with you for like next year, or not next year, but next tournament, 2026. What would you do? Would you keep it just like this, or what sort of tweaks do you want to see them make?
I would like it to be more often. I think that's really important. I think
every
2 years would be absolutely outstanding.
Love it.
And two, I think a reminder that a couple guys got signed. It's a world stage, and they get an opportunity to kind of display their talents. And I think that's really important. And it just shows how much baseball is growing all around the world. I mean, the fact that Japan came in with by far the best pitching, if you just watched, Ohtani's maybe the second best pitcher on their team. And you kind of marvel at that fact, because that youngster that threw the game before, throwing 101, 102, he had a vertical break that's never been seen before, which I thought was kind of remarkable, but somebody put in play, which is even more remarkable. So you're seeing things that are unprecedented. It was pure. It was real. The emotions that were behind it. I think just being able to do it every other year would be absolutely outstanding. I don't know how they balance it. Maybe they push spring training back. We've seen that we can do a spring training in 3 weeks. Maybe that's the time where they shorten up spring training a little bit and just kind of throw it all out there play 21 games, beat it. I think it's too long anyways, and we're not televising the games consistently anyways. I mean, there's a couple teams that are televising maybe 2 games, and I think it's important to continue to grow this on a world stage because we hit unprecedented numbers. You know, say the game's boring, it's too slow. Well, everything that happened at World Baseball Classic proved that wrong.
Yep, it did, and it caught it caught a casual audience at a key time of the year, and I think that's important.
Amen.
Shouldn't be understated. Like, I don't think that baseball grasps that enough. Like, baseball is made up by such hardcore baseball people that they just think that everybody is always going to want to watch baseball. And I think that's a flaw. I think baseball needs to be self-aware enough to say, people aren't watching this sport as much as they should. We're losing more of the mainstream audience than we should be. I mean, it's a sport that everybody grows up playing. I think everybody has a knowledge of it and they want to love baseball, but they're not going to love a 3-hour and 40-minute game. That's been my argument with the clock. Now, I realize the World Baseball Classic games are not clocked and maybe never will be clocked based on what other leagues do. But I mean, they found a way to hook in people at a time where you otherwise wouldn't be sort of yearning for competitive baseball. They're doing it. They're doing it. And they're doing it because the product on the field is just great. It is so entertaining. But I also look at it and I think the product could be better. I really do. And I think you need to find a way. I agree with Rob Manfred in this. You need to find a way to get more pitching in the game, like more of the better pitching. I think that's grammatically horrible, but like, like you need to find the best pitchers. I want to see the best guys the United States has to offer going to pitch in this event and not having it disrupt their routine. I realize you're probably going to have guys on pitch counts and you have to be aware of that. But I wanted to transition that to an idea. I did a radio hit today with Stan Savran on ESPN Pittsburgh, and I think
the Godfather. All right,
he's the best, man. It is never not cool when Stan Savran asks you to be on his radio show. But Stan floated something to me that I thought was a pretty good idea. He basically threw out the idea of putting the World Baseball Classic around the All-Star break. And initially, I thought, you can't do that. How do you work that out? You know, how do you have a 2-week tournament? And then guys are like left behind. What are they doing? But think about it for a second. You've got a built-in 2-week break for the World Baseball Classic every other year or every 4th year. The guys who are playing in it go off and play. The guys who don't, you've got 2 weeks where you're basically going to soak up some family time. You're going to have workouts. Maybe you have exhibition games. You can sort of dial it back a little bit while still maintaining some routine. The season's probably going to get longer. Maybe you have, I don't know, maybe they build in more double headers or something like that, start earlier and late. I don't know how you account for the 2 weeks. And it's really just a week and a half if you're wrapping it around the All-Star break. Maybe you don't have an All-Star break or an All-Star game. But I wanted to get your thoughts on that, Fort. Do you like that idea? Do you think there would be any way of doing it different timing-wise? Do you do it in the middle of season, end of season, or are you okay with the way it is now?
I can deal with it as long as it happens, but I do like the idea of All-Star break. And it goes into another idea that I floated around is I wish we played about a 142 game schedule. And listen, hold on. But I wish there was 20 exhibition games that were fan driven. So they test new rules. They play 7 innings. They do a lot of different things that are just really fan oriented. Maybe they play former big leaguers. I don't know. It doesn't really matter, but they get paid if they play. They don't have to play, but that'd be a really good time where you take 10 to 15 games and guys can decide whether they play or not.
You are blowing my mind right now. What? 142 game schedule?
Yeah, but I'm just saying on those years where like
how many outs per inning? Are you still using a bat and a ball?
Yes, but like
glove or frying pan? I'm just kidding. All right.
Yeah, it's just you just change it up and maybe you do some young type things during those 10 to 15 games, maybe 20, where it's very kind of out of the box. You know, you're just not normal, but it's a chance to try some different things. Maybe some prospects have to come up and play. You have to maybe think through some things. But like if Anthony Rizzo doesn't want to play and he wants to take a week off, he can. And then you get the best version of Anthony Rizzo through the rest of the season, or maybe he's just getting at bats, you know, back at extended spring. Who knows? There's a lot of ways to do it. You know, hockey does it. I don't, dislike it at all. And you're going to get guys just right in the middle of the grind. So they're going to be fresh. You're going to get the Max Scherzers, the Verlanders, the guys that are the best in the world to go there. And I think it would be incentivized to do that, but you got to have some type of product here at home. And kind of how do you balance that out?
Yeah.
And if you could maybe do an exhibition game, maybe it's, former players come in. I have no clue. They could literally do whatever. Maybe it's a fan gets to manage a game under restraints and do some different things that would be fun. And I think that would be something that they could play around with. It's just a way the players want less games to take back injuries, right? But like, there's a lot of guys, like for me, I would have played all 20 exhibition games, and you get paid if you play. If you don't play, you don't get paid. That's just the reality of it. So if you're a guy that's under contract, you're fine. But if not, you're going to be playing. And I just think you look at it maybe different. I'm not saying that's the right way to go. It's just a way to think about it, because they're never going to give, 2 weeks away. They want more games. They don't want less. They may pretend like they don't, but they do want more games. If we play 190 games and they could put butts in the seats, they would do it.
Yeah, I think about that. And there's an opportunity to make it a more fan-friendly product. Like, I think what I would do, remember during COVID where like the Pirates played the Indians for 3 and you had like these regional rivalries. I want to say like the Nationals played the Orioles or something like that. Do stuff like that. Play teams
I love it.
Super close. Have the Cubs play the Brewers. And I mean, you're potentially capitalizing on both fan bases. You're going there to watch an exhibition game. I think what would be kind of cool, honestly, is if you built in this is the way you do it for it. I'm spitballing here, but
let's go.
Let's
go, Mackie.
All right. So they're exhibition games, right? You got 2 weeks of exhibition games, but for those 2 weeks, you relax roster rules.
I love that.
You say, you basically, I'm trying to create something, not just total chaos, but like you can bring guys up from AAA. You can bring them up from AA. You basically recreate spring training for 2 weeks, maybe drop your ticket prices and call that like, fan all access events or something like that, where like, if I'm a parent and I've got 4 kids and like money's tight and I can't really pay regular season prices, I can think, well, okay, we got 2 weeks here where it's like glorified spring training. And then I know the Pirates are going to run a bunch of deals on tickets that like, I'm going to get my family in there for cheap. And we're going to go see basically a baseball game. It's a way to, I would think, maybe tap into a different audience, get different people interested in your sport. And you can also see prospects. Like the games don't count, but like, bring Andy Rodriguez to Pittsburgh and have him playing against the Reds, but doesn't count. It's the equivalent of a Grapefruit League game, but you're basically having a 2-week exhibition schedule. I don't even know if I care about like guys getting paid, whether or not they get like, and what I'm saying is just like, just pay them, just pay everybody.
Yeah, I agree. I'm saying, I like that too.
Yeah. Like I'm not even doing the, like, you have to play. If you don't play, you don't get paid. Like whatever, just paying you. If somebody has an injury, rest them. Make sure he's good for the second half. If somebody can play, I would hope to think that, guys who want to play baseball for a living will just play baseball for a living. Like maybe not every single day, but like you'll go out there and you'll play 5 innings and then you'll get some rest and you'll get some guys to play the back half of the game. I don't know.
Right. And two, Mackie, they could condense that tournament. I mean, it could be 7 days.
No doubt.
Like they could play 7 games in 7 days, but it could be over, especially when it comes to, the big boppers, right? Like, because they kind of play this, they were playing last fall to play in, to get into the tournament. So like they can, manipulate this enough to where it would work very, very well. I mean, I really believe that. Another way to do it is pick a place that's warm and do it right after the season. It may be a lot for some guys, but like, it's not too difficult, and I think you
I feel like
an easy transition into it.
Best pitchers that if they have miles on the tires, they're going to say, you know what, I'm not pitching. Just like guys don't want to do it at the beginning of like the middle of the season gets you right in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I guess no. If you don't have an all-star, I was going to say your best pitchers would be gearing up for the all-star break, but like if you start the WBC a couple days after, like you're going to get guys on turn. They're going to theoretically, like they're going to want the ball. I see what you're saying. I honestly, I think my second pick would be after the season. But the only thing I don't like about that Ford is going up against the NFL. And I think that's
Agreed.
One pocket of this time of the year where like you're really going it's the dog days of hockey. You're going against March Madness to a degree, but that's 4 days. If you can find another window or just live with it, it's a really good time of the sporting calendar.
I completely agree. I mean, I don't know if you can have a better time than either during spring or right in the middle of summer when everything's just kind of dead. Yeah. You know, it's a really good time. I mean, that's why they moved the draft and everything else right to the middle of summer, because they're going to get more eyes. They're going to have more opportunities, create more fans and all those things, because College World Series over, basketball's over, hockey's over. It's kind of a dead period, and it's right before NFL kicks off. So yeah, you're exactly right. It's a great opportunity, either or. And if you go too far into it, you know, you're getting into NFL and they'll take over. I mean, especially in the States, there's no way to compete. But I do think if you look at the numbers and the views, especially in Japan, right? There was a stat that 97% of family homes in Japan were watching that game. I don't know if that's right or wrong, but if it's even close, I mean, that's remarkable. I mean, it's the most watched maybe sporting event possibly of all time. If you add the entire country, it has to incentivize MLB saying blackouts are dumb. We need to open up completely and allow people to see what's going on in baseball. And the biggest thing for me, Mackie, is the fact that Ohtani now has a little over 3 million followers, and he has the most followers for any player, which I think is any active player, from my understanding. That's sad. 3 million is sad.
Yep.
You know, he gained 1.5 million since March 1st.
Yep.
There should be some guys, especially in the big markets, that have 15, 20, 30 million people following them. And that's a huge problem we have in the sport. So being able to grow it exponentially, you have to be able to put the players out there. And I think people got to see a giant little kid that has alien-like ability go out there and do some things. You know, they're calling him the unicorn. He really is. Like, he's a special breed of player that we may never see again in our lifetime, because it's just absolutely remarkable what he's doing.
Yeah. I mean, this is a whole discussion with baseball, you know, bigger than the World Baseball Classic. It's like, you need to do some things that make you uncomfortable to achieve a goal. Right? Like, Mike Trout doesn't want to self-promote. Well, okay, you're the best, and, you know, one of the best players now. I would say not the best, but like, you're right up there. You kind of need to self-promote. You kind of need to be interesting. You need to showcase your personality, because that's what draws people in. I mean, look at the NBA. Again, I draw this comparison a lot, but I think the NBA does a great job of selling stars and selling stars' personalities. And baseball has some incredibly talented athletes, some incredible people, some incredible stories. Get those out there more. Get those out there. Mainstream audiences should know all about Mookie Betts. Mainstream audiences, you know, they should know everything about him. He should be pitching products to them relentlessly during the World Series, you know, but like, he probably doesn't want to. It's almost like, you know, I draw a comparison to hockey because I used to cover it, but like, there's this code in hockey where you have to like not, you know, you're being labeled as like some sort of show off or selfish player by doing stuff like that. No, I mean, that stigma needs to go away. You need to be yourself, be unabashedly yourself. And that's okay. And I don't care if you're Ohtani or Mookie Betts or Justin Verlander or Edwin Diaz or Pete Alonso or O'Neal Cruz. Like, just be yourself, man. Like, that's one of the coolest things I think about baseball, is it allows you the opportunity to be yourself. And if you do that, if you have a good product on the field, if you have games that move along at a very good pace, I think most of America will pay attention to that. But they're not going to pay attention to games that are boring, games that don't include action, games that take too long, you know, and a product that is subpar. And I think the product has gotten a lot better. And I'm so encouraged by pace of play and what the way the product looks right now. I think baseball has made a lot of strides this spring, and I think we're going to see it in the regular season too. I think people are going to turn on games and be blown away by how watchable this product is.
I agree. And the only other fix I would mention is the stepbrother syndrome that they have between the PA and the MLB owners.
What's that? What's the stepbrother syndrome?
The MLB PA and the owners need to think about the fan and only the fan.
Yeah.
Right now. And I think that's so important. I think the players are starting to see it more than ever. And I think they just need to open up the idea of like, hey, let's put aside, you know, some of these realities that we're going to fight and tooth and nail for and just say, hey, how can we make the product as good as we possibly can over the next 3 to 4 years before we go into this next, bargaining agreement, because that's the most important thing. Because if they go into it with, numbers going down, people not viewing the games, and they're trying to figure out the TV stuff and whether it's streaming, blah, 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 that's a problem. They need to get ownership of this now and just let it be and let it kind of open up and see what happens. Because I think, the time is now. I think right after that World Baseball Classic, we're going to have a dead period of about a week or so. And then, it should be full throttle to let fans be enthralled with that human element that you're talking about with Mookie Betts and understand who he is. Let him, have his little girl up there with them on the podium and, do things a little bit different that makes it more family oriented, makes these guys human beings, but also highlights how good they are at what they do because they're so good. Yep. It's incredible, but it's a different game, right? We can't compare it to 1970s. It's a different game now. Let's highlight that game.
Yep. All right. We can sit here and lecture you all day long about the World Baseball Classic and why people should love baseball, and we love baseball, and we're going to love a different kind of baseball right now because we'd like to talk about Pirates baseball, and is getting down to crunch time in spring training, and some cuts are going to be made. We know that. I believe they're down to 40 as we record this. They got to get down to 26. I think there are some fascinating decisions to be made. I wrote a piece earlier today, and again, I did not present this as news, although I think some people took it that way with Ji-Man Choi, and there's an option that they have if they want to cut bait, essentially, and press forward without Ji-Man Choi, they can. We'll talk about that. I don't know, where do you want to start with the roster, man? Let's do it this way. Do you know who's in your starting rotation at this point? How does that look for you?
I do not. And the reason I don't, because I don't know if it's going to be front office oriented or if it's going to be the best guy wins oriented. And
what do those two scenarios look like?
I think it has to do with Velasquez, and Oviedo. Those two guys, I think both guys are on the team. I think both guys will get starts this year, but who starts the season as a starter and that fifth starter is kind of,
Who do you think's been better, Velasquez or Oviedo?
I think it depends on the way you look at it. They're both working on kind of a big product, so to speak, both working on their main pitch, which is the fastball. Oviedo's trying to change his usage, which is never easy, but changing the usage and being able to work on the fastball at the same time. So like he's probably going to be 60-40 in season throwing that slider. Right now he's the exact opposite. So to get him back in the zone, he's going to throw that slider. And Velasquez is trying to learn a better spin pitch, trying to do some different things. And there's, I hope he starts throwing left-handed a little bit too. I think that brings more value, especially late ball games to save some arms. So yeah, I think they both have value. It's just depending on, the way you look at it, because spring training doesn't matter. Velasquez has not had a good spring. Oviedo has kind of been up and down, a little bit of a roller coaster, but as long as we go in and they kind of know where they're at, what they're trying to do, and they own it, I think we'll be fine, but I can't tell you who's going to be in that rotation. Usually the guy that signs a $3 million deal is going to be the guy that's in that rotation. That's why they brought him here, and they see something in him. They do have a good plan. Whether it comes to light, who knows? I know he's working his tail off. I really like Velasquez. I didn't know him until I went down to spring. And Oviedo, I don't know if you can really get a much nicer human being, especially for a juggernaut of a human being. He's huge.
He's so big.
He's so big. And I think his upside is maybe as high as anybody's if it comes all together, because his extension's off the charts. His fastball's a plus. It's just flat right now. But all those things are fixable, and they have a plan. It's just, can he execute it?
Yeah.
For you?
I don't know if I agree with you. I think Vince is in my starting rotation, and I send Oviedo to AAA is what I would do. And it's not
that's the front office. That's the front office move that I could see. But Oviedo's in my bullpen, no matter what.
I don't view it that way, because I'm not like manipulating any sort of his roster status or whatever. What I want to do is to keep him stretched out as a starter. I don't want to screw around with him as a reliever. Like, I see Oviedo as a starter, and I want him to keep doing that.
So let me be a devil's advocate for you.
Go for it.
So all spring he's had his hands on, right, with the big league staff. So
Who?
he goes to
Yeah.
AAA. Oviedo, yes,
Yeah.
yes. So during his bullpens, Rich Hill's out there, Brubaker's out there, Mitch Keller's out there. He's got his boys, right? And they're really trying to help him understand how to feel that fastball, be behind it, create some depth, and use the – I won't get into all the physics of it, but like try to create some movement with this two-seamer. You put him in AAA, you're away from him. Yeah, you can see the numbers and everything else, but no matter what, he's still the best bullpen guy you could have, and he's going to be stretched because it's going to take time. He's throwing 25 pitches an inning. So his numbers are going to stay up, and he can make that jump where it's 3-4 innings pretty simply. And if I hate to say it, if they're going to maybe pull him back in July at any point because he has not started in a couple of years, you'd rather have him on the roster being able to throw than on the sidelines throwing bullpens like we saw Contreras last year. And it didn't go well. So I hope they learn from that and they kind of move forward with that. But that's kind of the way I look at it is he's one of your better arms no matter what you do. Even if he's not as good as you want him to be, he's still one of the better arms with the stuff. And he can develop in the big leagues, getting big leagues hitters out. And I have the best example. Milwaukee Brewers, Corbin Burns.
Yeah.
He stunk in 2020, came back, and that was in the bullpen. 2021, came back. He was a different dude, right? Completely different dude, Cy Young. And I think that's the way to look at it is like you can develop in the big leagues and you can stay in an area where, hey, you have 75 pitches, 80 pitches, and they're shutting them down at 90 anyways. So that's kind of the way I look at it. And I really just want the staff to stay on him because I feel like he's in a really good area where he can continue to move forward. And every time you move a guy and you take him to AAA, not that they can't teach him down there, not that the coaches aren't absolutely outstanding down there. It's just the fact that like for 5 weeks, he's had the same voices, the same ears, everything's been the same. Now he's going to go down there, not have Rich Hill, not have Keller, not have Brubaker, not have the same eyes. And his stuff will outplay most AAA guys. Let's be honest. We saw it with Glass, now we saw it with a lot of guys.
Well, I didn't see. Yeah. I see what you're saying. I certainly understand the line of thinking. I look at this. My counter argument would be when he was with the Cardinals, one of the things that I felt like stunted him was he never really got put in a role where he could know what his role was and grow and make those adjustments. I shouldn't say it that way. I have faith that Oviedo can go to AAA and know what he's doing. He's mature enough as a young man that like he has got his coaching, he's got his instruction, he has people to facilitate that in Indianapolis. I'm not worried about like his boys being in Pittsburgh while he's in Indy. And I worry a little bit about maybe him taking that as a shot. Like, what do I have to do? I didn't prove myself or whatever, and getting like down and moping about it, I guess. But I mean, most of all, like what I would tell him, say Louis, I keep wanting to call him Luis. I've done it earlier in the podcast, I'm sorry. I went through the Luis Oviedo Rule 5 saga. Johan Oviedo, I'd pull him aside and say, Johan, we really like you. We really like you as a starter. We would really like you to come up here and make starts. What we want you to do is go to AAA. Keep working on what we're working on. Keep pitching well. We hope you're just cleaning guys' clocks down there, and we'll see what happens. If it gets to the point where you're not getting anything out of this after a couple starts, we're going to bring you back. We know there's going to be an opportunity, but we'd like for now to sort of kick this can down the road and allow you to continue being stretched out as a starter. And then after we get past the first month, when some off days go away, maybe you just consider a 6-man rotation. If nothing happens, if you go a couple times through and there's no injuries, nobody's getting shelled, there's no need to make another move, like, okay, maybe we'll just go 6. And at that point, that benefits Rowanzi, it benefits Rich Hill. I would just kind of kick the can on the decision. But I do get what you're saying, though, Ford. I get what you're saying about, like, he would learn more. There's more feedback available by getting major league hitters out than he's going to get in AAA. I get that.
Yeah, so once again, it boils down to, a sense of urgency to me.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like I could look at Ortiz and say, yeah, I get that one, right? Like I could argue too that I could see him being in the bullpen and developing there, but he also just had a little bit of time where he had tremendous success, right? So I get that. And long run, you can control him more in AAA and let him go down and kind of play around with some of those super freaks that they have in that rotation in AAA. So I think that's going to be good for him. But Oviedo is a guy. It's like, tread lightly because there's a mental aspect.
Rick James, by the way.
Say what?
I had to restrain myself from busting into some Rick James, by the way, with Super Free.
You should have. I would have loved to seen it. Maybe get up and dance a little.
Yeah. I don't need to be breaking anybody's screens or listening devices. That's all right. Anyway.
I love it. Yeah, I like that. That's the same argument that I think they're having, behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Trying to figure it out. Because I heard both sides and I get both sides, and I think you do too.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think there's a wrong move here. I mean, I think Johan Oviedo is a very good pitcher with a very bright future. I think we can, there's going to be a certain school of thinking with this way, and there's a certain school of thinking with that way. Okay. All right. So that's one thing on our list. Who starts at second base, in your opinion? Who do you have there?
Castro, without question. I mean, I think.
No question? No question?
Yeah, because if you look over the last maybe 4 or 5 games he's made an adjustment with the swing. So I'm really close to Andy Haynes. I'm going to all year long, dig into hitting. And one thing that they've done with Castro is they wanted to eliminate the swing and miss. If you look over the last 4 or 5 games, I don't know the exact numbers, but his swing and miss is down, right? He's having better bats. He's seeing more pitches, and he's starting to catch more barrel consistently. He's harder outs, getting hits. I think his average has climbed up as well, but he made a huge adjustment. I mean, he went from being narrow, tall, and kind of falling into his swing, not being able to stay behind it, to almost a Juan Soto Lindor look. He's wider, but he realized with big dog Andy Haynes that, hey, I have enough space to be able to turn and get the barrel there when I'm wider, but I have more coverage. And I think he's going to find his balance to where, that width really plays and everything starts to time up. And I got to see it with velocity over the last maybe 3 or 4 times I've seen him hit. And I think it's going to play really, really well. I think he's going to hit the ball to, left center, left hand a lot better. His right-handed swing, I think, looks really, really good. But it's one of those things where now they kind of play with each other instead of against each other because they were very, very different. And I think it's going to be easier for him. And, he's probably one of the more talented guys in the organization that I didn't know existed about 1.5 years ago. He really puts a charge into baseball. He moves really well. He can play multiple positions. But as of right now, he's my second baseman. And then eventually he may get pushed out with Nick Gonzalez because I love what he's done this spring. And he'll be able to float, in my opinion. I think Castro will be a guy that, he has enough baseball savvy and ability to move around. We've seen him play some really good third base and handle shortstop. I think he'd be a really good outfielder or first baseman if he needed to be. But he's a guy that, being a switch hitter, the value is really high. So I like him in the long run, and I do like him right now at second base. And I think he earned it last year. Yeah,
I would agree with you. I don't think it's super clear cut, but I feel like almost by default, he has earned it. I have liked what I've seen defensively out of him. Offensively, it's just there's enough there that intrigues me, and I'm not going to make any sort of decisions or declarations based on spring training. Like, he hasn't been good. He struck out too much. I understand what you're saying about the swing and miss, but I mean, on balance, he just hasn't. If this would continue over 80 or 100 games, I'd be looking for another second base.
And it's trending in the right direction. You see that as well over the last maybe 5 or 6 games he's played. It has trended in the right direction, and it's because there is an intent there, and they're trying to make a pretty large adjustment. And I think it's a very great adjustment. And if it hits and he puts the trust in it, because that's always the biggest thing, is a guy really going to trust what he's doing? I mean, he's sold out. I mean, I watched him and Carlos Santana hit for 3 hours on an off day one day. I was going to come to the away game, and I was just sitting there. I was like, I can't leave. I got to watch these guys just grind away. And they were watching video. They were hitting. They were doing different things. Yeah, I did not. I definitely didn't want to. Absolutely.
I don't even know if it was Lakeland. I forget where we went. Dunedin?
It was Dunedin. Yeah. I did want to see the new complex. I haven't seen it yet.
I just have to see them. I want to watch them work.
I'm going to take a video of the favorite part, Mackie. Let's go.
Pretend like that's work too. Look, we're streaming. Not that I'm bitter that I had to drive back and forth to Dunedin.
Just a little. Yeah. Just a little. Yeah,
you know what I'm bitter about? You know what I'm bitter about? So this is like an inside spring training for what it's like to cover it, right? So we never get parking in Dunedin for Blue Jays games. Media doesn't. So what we've done is scam the system. There's a little restaurant right next to the ballpark. And so they let you park for free if you eat there. And it's a really good breakfast spot. And so we would just park there, eat breakfast, hang out at this place, have some coffee out on their little like outdoor patio thing, and then walk over to the game. It was a very nice morning. Well, this year we actually got media parking, and I got lazy. I didn't park behind the place and eat breakfast there. And so I'm like missing, I forget what this place is even called. That's how much I loved it. But I didn't get my breakfast outside of it. It's right by the Dunedin Public Library. And there's my breakfast spot. And then on the other side is the ballpark. So next year I will have to remember to do that.
Yeah, you got free parking for years and you can't remember the name of the restaurant?
No, it's awful. And man, I walked right past it the other day too. I was so mad at myself. But anyway, spring training traditions that we have.
Go back to the second base real quick. Who else would
about breakfast? We're talking about second base.
Let's scramble some eggs. Let's get back to the bacon and, and really get to the meat of this. Right. Who would be your second baseman if it wasn't Castro?
Probably G1 Bay.
I wanted him to be on this club. I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Well, my next question is the bench. So you want to go there now?
Yeah, like I'm just not sure if G1 Bay is mature enough yet.
I don't disagree with you. You
know, he's kind of been one of those guys that I had a lot of hopes for, and he came in with a little bit more swag.
Yeah.
And a little bit more entitlement than you want. And I think that happens. And I think there's a chance to learn from it, but there's also a chance that like he stays in that lane and you never know what's going to happen. But I hope he learns from it and grows and kind of figures out, hey, this game will humble you in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
You know, take every single moment you have and love it, because it could be taken away.
Really good kid, man. I do like him. I don't see like entitlement or arrogance there, but I look at his swing sometimes and I like want to throw it in a dryer and shrink it. Like, what are you doing? You've run a 3.6 to first base. I hate to sound like Lou Brown, but put the ball on the ground. You should be legging him out.
That's part of what I'm saying. Like, he hasn't been consistent with his work. He hasn't been showing up for some of the extra stuff. And that's what you want to see from these young guys. It was something that was automatic. You know, when I was in big league camp, when somebody was working, you were working no matter what, especially as a rookie. And this being one of his first camps, you show up every day. And the fact that I was there for a week, I saw them bunting, 3 out of the 7 or 8 days I was at that complex, and I didn't see him once. And that for me just is a disappointment. And I also got there about 7:30 almost every day. And when I beat guys there, that bothers me. And that maybe just be a personal thing, but especially rookies. I was always told you need to be one of the first guys there, get your stuff done first. And you can kind of see that trend, especially in the cage. Guys would show up. You saw Swaggerty there every day, Mitchell every day, Kane and Jigma every single day. They were the first guys in that cage. They were walking in almost in unison, getting their work done. And you knew, right? Those were the young guys. And that's kind of how it felt, but I didn't see G1 consistently. So, and that's what I want. That's kind of the ins and outs you want to see throughout spring is like, all right, what are they doing to better their game? So you kind of wonder around, are they working somewhere else? They do something else? Are they hurt or in the training room? And for him, like, I think, he's trying to figure out where he fits, what type of player he wants to be. He has enough pop to get him in trouble, but he's a top 95% runner in the big leagues. So he's got to be able to use both sides of the game and figure out that balance, because it's not easy, but also he's working on center field. He's doing a lot of different things. So I'll give him some grace. I just want to see some growth.
That's fair. I think that's completely fair. All right. So let's go lineup wise, or alignment wise, I should say. I think it's pretty easy in some spots. So I'm going to whip around and then we'll figure out the last 4. Austin Hedges obviously behind the plate. Brian Hayes at third. O'Neill Cruz at short. We've covered Castro at second. Who's your first baseman? I've seen Carlos Santana take more reps than Ji-Man Choi there. I'm beginning to think that it's not Santana over Choi, but what do you have?
I have Santana over Choi. I think he's a better defender.
I think he's too.
He moves better arm, and he has extremely long arms.
Yeah.
He just seems to have a really, really good reach. So he'd be my pick. I think there'll be a balance there just to keep them all fresh. But yeah, Santana's my pick right now.
Yeah. Okay. Your outfield right now, what's it look like?
I have Swinsky in left, Reynolds in center, and Kutch in right.
Yep.
Day one.
That's what I would have. I don't know if that's the way they're going to go.
I don't know where they're going to go. I do have Swaggerty right there. He's probably starting game 2.
Woo,
he's probably
buddy.
starting in right. Kutch is going to DH that game. But I would say Swaggerty is going to be a floater.
Multiple lineups made up for it.
Look at you. I've thought through this because, like, I like Swaggerty. I like the thought there, but also like Kenan Smith-Njigba. But if you have Swinsky, Smith-Njigba doesn't make as much sense. Swaggerty makes sense because he makes your team better immediately, because I could justify playing him almost every single day, and I can give all those guys a break, and he makes the outfield spot better. So and I get him enough at bats. That's the tough part.
Yep.
That's the tough part. I mean, they could technically carry, all of them, but I don't think they will. So we'll have to wait and see. He's had some tremendous at bats.
Yeah.
And that's where, for me, Mackie, you have to look at Ji-Man Choi and say, all right, like, can we move him? Because Smith-Njigba, you're getting a very similar player profile, in my opinion, maybe even higher upside with Smith-Njigba, but you need at bats.
Preaching to the choir here, man.
I know.
If I was running the Pirates, I would get rid of Ji-Man Choi for the reasons that I outlined in the story today. I don't think they're going to. I think he's going to be in their opening day lineup, on their opening day roster, all that fun stuff. Whether he DHs or plays first base, I don't know. But I'm with you. Like, I want to see opportunity for guys, and I don't think that what Ji-Man Choi is going to give you is going to be $3.5 million better than what Swaggerty, Kenan Smith-Njigba, Endy, whatever that roster spot would end up becoming. I just don't. I think it's worth the drop off that you're going to have. I think it's worth saving the money, and I think it's worth opening up the roster spot. But again, that's all futile because they're not going to do it, at least as far as I can, at least anything that I can detect. So anyway, we went through 8 positions. Now we've got 5, which obviously includes your DH spot. I guess at this point, if we're saying Santana's playing first, we're saying Choi's your DH. So we've got 4 left. We got catcher. We need a backup infielder. We need a backup outfielder. And then we need a 4th spot. I don't know what we would do with that. But at this point, who's your backup catcher? Let's start there.
I'd almost flip a coin.
You?
I'd almost flip a coin. I mean, if you want to go, no. If you're going to go completely defense, you're going to pick Heineman.
Yep.
And because analytically he's a better blocker, better thrower, better receiver. But I don't know. I really don't know. That's a toss-up for me. I mean, it really depends on maybe even some veteran talk. Rich Hill has some history with one and not the other. That could be one reason. And so
he's in this team because he's Rich Hill's guy. Let's stop beating him in the boot.
And Sherrington does too, right? Like, so you kind of look at it like that. And
Plawecki's also hitting 235 compared to 059 for Heineman.
Correct.
And it's not like Heineman has offensive history to fall back on. I mean, there's been nothing there.
Yeah, and Poe's also a guy that he finds more barrel in general. So he makes sense.
Oh?
Yeah. Plawecki, yeah.
Plawecki?
Plawecki. Is that how you say it?
Plawecki.
Plawecki, whatever. It's all the same.
I thought there was some nickname.
No.
I heard the Red Sox PR guy call him Plaw. I think it was Plaw.
You play against guys over the years, and you just kind of, like.
Oh, I know. I'm not doubting it. I just thought it was something like I was not hearing completely. That's all.
No. I'm with
you. So Podolak makes it. We got that.
I would say so. Heineman goes to AAA. He can mentor some of those young guys.
Yeah. Okay. Your 4th outfielder is Connor
Swaggerty.
What do you do with Connor?
I mean, it's so tough. I mean, that's the thing is like your sense of urgency and what you want to do with your lineup. Like, obviously, Connor Joe's going to make the team. Like, there's no doubt in my mind. So that pushes Swaggerty off to the side.
We're semantics at this point because we still need a backup infielder. So Swaggerty's on your group. So your bench in this case, 5 spots. We're going to have Choi, We're going to have Swag. We're going to have Connor Joe. And then backup catcher Plawecki. And then you've got one more, and you need to cover your backup middle infield. So what, Chris Owings?
Yeah, that would be my pick, but it could be G-Man because he fits and he's already on the roster.
G-Man or G1?
I mean G1. Sorry. Yeah, G1.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think that's probably what they wanted, for G1 to earn that role and be a super sub and whatever and bounce around, and that makes sense. But like, I'm with you. I have not been as enamored with G1 both offensively and defensively. If you're going to keep Swag in that fourth bench spot or Kanan, I mean, you've got outfield playing time then covered. You don't really need G1 in the outfield, but you need a backup shortstop unless you plan on playing O'Neill 162, which maybe they do. Or, you're not going to play Rodolfo that many times. I don't know. It's an interesting one for sure.
Yeah, and with the DH rotation, I mean, you want to get Reynolds there, you want to get Hayes there, you want to get Kutch there, you want to get all your first basemen possibly there, especially, if these lefties playing, that's when Connor Joe's going to be out there. But like Santana's a switch hitter, so he's going to flip over and he's, really crush lefties. So it's going to be one of those things that's going to be tough to be able to balance at bats. And you got to get guys at bats, especially guys that are used to getting, 300 to 500 at bats a year. So yeah, that's where you got to figure out where's the sense of urgency. Do I want to make Ken Smith-Njigba a fourth outfielder? He's never really played that role. He needs at bats. And that's where it gets tough. But you have to take one guy and say, this is what you're going to do for now. And I think Swaggerty fits that mold better than most because you could literally put him at any outfield position and he makes you better defensively. And he could be a guy that could come in late in ball games. He could be a guy that, gets a lot of starts and still gets 400 at bats, and a guy that hasn't been healthy. So you could probably, maybe manage his workload a little bit better. And he's had a huge spring. And I've always said this, those smaller schools like South Alabama and I went to Middle Tennessee. I never bet against guys like that because they know what it's like to, be the little guy, and they're going to fight. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer. But
don't give me the little guy routine.
I'm just telling you.
In 3 school, it was 13th grade.
I'm just saying.
The little guy routine.
I'm just saying.
Go play Bethany one day where your phone shuts off because you're in this West Virginia hole where you literally have to get out texts to your parents and say, if I don't come back, I love you. It actually didn't happen, but I mean,
you learn different things. I mean, the entitlement's not there. They learn how to be kind of gritty. And I played against South Al my entire college career, and all those guys that I played against, they were all gritty and they all maximized their ability because they weren't maybe on the top of the radar everywhere, when it came to the draft board. And Swaggerty wasn't either. Yeah. And most of those guys take a little bit longer. And he looks really good. I love how he gets after it and he works. The confidence is high, and it's a good time to maybe say, hey, this is a good opportunity. This is kind of what we need right now.
Here's my hot take on this, Fort, and it's really not that hot. I mean, if you're going to talk about my lukewarm take, if you're going to talk about competition and we have competition, we're competing for spots. They use the word competition every darn day. Somebody better win something. Somebody better win a spot. I understand Jack Sawinski being in the outfield. Derek Shelton effectively said that. That's fine. That's how they're best constituted. I'm not going to bump Jack Sawinski to the minor leagues because he's had a poor spring. That's silly. But somebody should win something here. I have a tough time telling Kanan and Travis Swaggerty, no, you can't start with the big club because we have guys who are more established and have done less than you. One of them has won a job, and it's gonna be really cool to tell Travis Swaggerty he made the opening day roster, or Kanan, and it's gonna suck to tell the other one you're going to AAA. But somebody should win something here.
Completely agree. And it stinks that Sawinski's had a bad spring. He was pretty much not penciled in. He was with a pen. And yeah, and there's a reason for that.
Home runs last year. That carries weight.
It does. And he was also a plus WAR player. I mean, that carries weight in that front office. No matter what you say, defensively he was good. Offensively, he showed a lot of good signs. You bring down that swing and miss, and he's been working so hard on certain things to try to hone in on his approach. And if he does, I think he could take off. I really do. But if he does, like it's more in his head right now than anything else. Watching him work and understanding how intelligent he is kind of remarkable.
Yeah,
he understands what he's trying to do. Yeah, and a lot of guys don't. Like he has a plan. He's sticking to it, so he trusts the organization and what they're saying to him. So they believe in him wholeheartedly, because most guys have a hard time doing what he's doing. And I think he's going to fight and claw, and you're going to see maybe an animal pretty quickly come out.
I hope so.
I hope so too.
He's one of my favorite dudes in that room.
Me too.
Personally, he is just a really, really, really good and a bit quirky. I think we all are kind of person. Like, you just root for him. You know, I think I like the way he goes about his business. He works his tail off. Yeah. And I wouldn't banish him over spring training at bats, which seems to be a popular sentiment. And I understand people would throw that back at me and say, well, you're going to banish Ji-Man Choi after spring training at bats. No, it's how to best construct your roster. And my argument with that is, you know, is it worth it? And you do have an out clause with him. You don't with other guys. And so that's my point with that. Anyway, to wrap up this discussion on the roster, Fort, I want to just probably won't go into like full scale bullpen constitution. And they're certainly going to be down early with Harleen Garcia and Robert Stevenson starting the season on the IL. I do worry about Garcia quite a bit. It's never a good thing when you've got nerve issues going on. But let me ask you this. Out of the relievers, who has sort of stepped into that conversation? Because I think we can safely say, like, Bednar, Underwood Jr., Chase, Will. I feel like I'm leaving somebody out. Jose Hernandez is obviously in the mix. Holderman is the 6. I feel like you can safely start with 6, and then you're going to have to fill 2 more spots. One of them, as we've talked about, might well go to Johan Oviedo. But who's another guy that has stepped in? I'll throw out mine, and that's Dari Moreta.
I like Moreta, and once again, it depends on how they want to use these guys, right? Like if Chase Young stays in his mold and his role, he's going to be that maybe first guy you call, but maybe can float a little bit because his mentality plays. His stuff may not tick up as much as others. I'd really like them to own where Underwood may pitch the 7th inning and give him an opportunity to let that stuff play, the confidence play, especially off the World Baseball Classic. Holderman's probably going to be your hold guy, right? I think it fits. He's tapping out. I mean, it's perfect, right?
Like Holderman.
Another hold by Holderman. Yeah. And the cutter looks awesome. The 99, he's hit a couple different times. He just looks good. The confidence is there. Bednar's the staple in the back. And then you kind of think, like, we don't have a lefty. We don't have a lefty that's there. So, you know, you think about the Rule 5 pick. Remind me his name.
Jose Hernandez.
Yeah. You may have to go with that and see where it's there. And you may end up making a move here soon and trying to grab somebody.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's an element. But to your point, I'm going to go with your guy as well, because he has an equalizer for lefties. Yep. And I think they have a lot of righties that can really get lefties out. If you look at the numbers, they have a bullpen that's constructed very, very well. It may push out guys like De Los Santos and some of those guys that can't get lefties out because they're going to have to find a balance there. But yeah, I think you're going to see a guy with an equalizer like that changeup he has. So
really good.
Yeah, he's a guy that I really, really like. He also looks clean.
I look at the slider too is excellent.
It's ticked up for me. It's definitely ticked up for me. So yeah, I'm with you. I think he's right there on the cusp. And I think, you know, people that are just tapping on the door, I think Mckenry really made a name for himself. And I think they may put him in the bullpen in AAA. And I think that's why they probably sent him down. It's like, hey, own this. Your stuff really ticked up, the velocity. And I think he got banged around and learned a little bit over his last week. And I think it's going to be good for him to go down and learn that. But, you know, they really
talk to me. That was his curse.
Is that what it is? That's what you do to guys?
Oh, man. I talked to Carmen. I had a really good conversation with him and wrote a story. I like him a lot. He's a good kid. Mm-hmm. But, you know, I wrote a story and then he gives up runs the next time out. He was unhittable prior to talking to the tall idiot reporter. So the last one of those he'll do.
But that's good. I mean, that's where they really learn, right? You know, he just didn't have his best stuff that day. That's absolutely okay.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be a great stepping stone to learn who he is and go down there. And hopefully he starts in the bullpen. They have way too many starters. So he'll go in the bullpen and he may be one of those guys that, you know, climbs to the big leagues mid-April, early May, just because of how good his stuff is.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So I'm with you on that.
Yeah, I think they're going to go out and get another piece for it. I do
too.
I think they need to get a left-handed reliever that they can use in. You don't need them to like the highest of high leverage situations, but I agree with you on Hernandez. Like you're going to pick your spots for him. You're going to go early in games. You're going to play matchups. You're going to put him in position to have success. I'm not going to drop him in the 8th against the Mets and say, here, go. That's just unfair to do to the kid.
You're exactly right. And I mean, stuff's great. He's made a huge turn. I love the story about him having his family around and everything started to tick up. Just shows that the off the field stuff really does matter. So yeah, I think being able to balance that, especially if you're going to try to keep him, which I don't know why you wouldn't. He's a piece you don't have, if you look down in their minor league system, and I think he could really be a benefit in the long run and maybe even in the short term, but you don't want to overexpose him.
Yep. All right, man. Well, in about a week, Fort, we're going to have real ball. I'm ready for it. 8 days, I guess. A week from when this podcast will publish. But I am very ready. Tuesday, after the last spring training game, I will get in my car and drive directly to Cincinnati. They'll have a workout there on Wednesday. Cannot wait.
I can't wait either. And I did want to bring up one more thing. What about Andrew coming out, 7-8 days off, staying on the ball, hitting the ball, opposite field 2-0 for a homer? That's good. That's a really, really good sign.
You still think Touch makes the team?
I think he's fighting and clawing to be on that team. Maybe he can find himself a bench spot.
Yeah.
But
I joked with him after hitting that. Something about you have to feel good about this helping your chances. Right. Or he said something like, it helps my chances of making the team. Like, yeah, good luck, Andrew. I really hope you can make that roster spot. So, I forget how the exchange went, but yeah, it's been a good ongoing one.
I'm telling you right now, I still will put my name behind this. Barring injuries, the guy's going to have a bigger year than what most people expect. If he does exactly what he did last year, which I think is their hope, he'll have a good year. But I think he's going to really exceed those expectations. I really believe that. Had some awesome conversation with him. He's really in a cool place. And I think that element of those veteran guys and how they've placed it, like seeing Cruz and what Santana's done, kind of firsthand for him, that reality is real.
Yeah.
And there's some cool things happening. And I can't wait to see the sense of urgency that the team may have or may not have to kind of push forward. But if they have a good first month, Mackie, I think they're going to push the front office. And I really believe that. And then you may see some guys that maybe we wouldn't normally see. But yeah, there's some guys that made some big steps for me. Biggest one probably is Nick Gonzalez. I think if he goes out and does just what he can do and he believes in what he did and the adjustments he made with his swing, I was told by multiple people he has the fastest hands they've ever seen.
Yeah.
And that's special. I mean, that's saying a lot from the guys that were saying that. They weren't the guys that have been around a little bit. The guys have been around a long time. So, yeah, stuff to be excited about. I'm excited to see what kind of, I guess, comes from it all.
Yep.
It could be very disappointing at the same time because it is something you look to and you're like, man, these guys could be really good, but a lot of things got to go right.
Yeah. Cool. All right, man. Well, that's going to do us for this evening. I am at what are my handles? At JMackeyPG on Twitter, JMackey at post-gazette.com, email-wise. Get at either one of us. Fort, I'll have you give the sign-off information and send us out of here.
info@pitchingin.com if you have any questions that you want us to answer, anything like that, or if, like we've said before, we want to do a lot of this for charity. And if you have any thought or anything you want to maybe sponsor or do, just let us know. info@pitchingin.com. And then you can obviously get at J Mackey or me at the Fort McKenry, any way, shape, or form. And we're looking forward to some Pirates baseball.
And we do have some conversations ongoing with people. You've seen a few of these podcasts now that do not have sponsors. My days have been tied up in this. This is like a 7:30 to 9:30 right now endeavor. It doesn't leave a lot of extra time. I fully expect that to change once the regular season starts, where we have a little bit more of a normal life. Fort has had something similar and then was just down here. So I do expect that sort of angle of this to pick up. And we also started this knowing that it wasn't going to be perfect and was going to take a little bit of time. And so it has, and that's okay. Neither one of us are panicking. It's still fun. And we're going to be able to dig into that stuff a little bit more once the season gets started. So thank you for staying patient with us.
Absolutely. Thank you. And yeah, it's all about growth, right? We're doing all this on our own and, in due time. So yeah. Thank you for listening. God bless you. Mackie, you're the man. Keep doing your thing.